the topic for today, for the first one for 2018. The Lord gave us this. We still stand with Hebrews. Put it in Hebrews chapter 11, which is basically the whole thing of faith. Amen. And so we just want to share all that we have for us to share. Amen. And that He's going to give us everything that we need. And so the first one that He's given us, last week we talked about faithfulness rewards. Amen. And today He's telling us what it means to have a gifted faith. Amen. And He's bringing us in that hall of fame of faith. And first He's talking with us about Abel. Amen. That's the first person that the Bible talks about being a person of faith. Amen. And so that's what we're going to deal with on this day. A gift is faith. Our meditational scripture for today is coming from Hebrews 11 and 4. And this is the Amplified Bible version of that scripture. Amen. And it says this. It says, prompted, actuated by faith, Abel brought God a better and more acceptable sacrifice than Cain, because of which it was testified of him that he was righteous, and that he was upright and in right standing with God. And God bore witness by accepting and acknowledging his gifts. And though he died, yet through the incident, he is still speaking. Amen. And so that's what we're dealing with, the first situation where faith played a role in what we did as far as representing and sacrificing and giving offerings to God. And Abel was the first person to show that faith and do what God had told Adam and Eve to do after they were placed out of the garden. And so God set forth His orders in this direction of what they were to follow. Amen. And so this is what we're going to deal with as far as ourselves today. And I'm going to read this because this is Genesis 4, the whole story in Genesis 4, in 1 through 12. It said, now the man Adam knew Eve as his wife, and he conceived and gave birth to Cain. And she said, I have obtained a man, a baby boy son, with the help of the Lord. And later she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now Abel kept the flocks of sheep and goats, but Cain cultivated the ground. And in the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground. But Abel brought an offering of the finest firstborn of his flock and the fat portions. And the Lord had respect and regard for Abel and his offering. But for Cain and his offering, he had no respect. So Cain became extremely angry and indignant, and he looked annoyed and hostile. And the Lord said to Cain, why are you so angry? And why do you look annoyed? If you do well, believing me and doing what is acceptable and pleasing to me, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, but ignore my instruction, sin crouches at your door. Its desires is for you to overpower you, but you must master it. And Cain talked with Abel his brother about what God had said. And when they were alone working in the field, Cain attacked Abel his brother and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, where is Abel your brother? And he lied and said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? And the Lord said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's innocent blood is crying out to me from the ground for justice. And now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's shed blood from your hand. And when you cultivate the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength. It will resist producing good crops for you. You shall be a fugitive and a vagabond, roaming aimlessly on the earth, in perpetual exile, without a home, a degraded outcast. Amen? Amen. And so, even from that standpoint, you see how a person of faith responds, and how a person who does not have that faith in God responds. And we still see that today, to this very point. From that moment on, you had a battle between people of faith and people who did not have faith. And it's consistent violence going to go on until Jesus Christ returns again. And so let's just look at Cain and Abel from two perspectives. One, two brothers from the same parent, in the same place, but two different personalities and reactions. And so, but I always look at this when we talk about the importance of the name of a child, the name that God gives us, the name that our parents give us. All those things are important. And so the Bible said when Eve gave birth to Cain, she had given birth to a boy child. But she called him Cain. And the name Cain means fabricated. Now, when somebody fabricates something, either they're making something up or they're building something up. But that was just a fancy term for telling a lie. When somebody called you a fabricator, that meant you didn't tell the truth. Anytime anything went on, you made excuses, you lied about it, you always had some other reason, and you never pointed to yourself as the reason for something happening. It also says he was the firstborn son of Adam and Eve. But notice his personality. He was cruel, he was hurtful, he was a killer, and he's a lord. Now who does that sound like? It doesn't sound like God. It doesn't sound like him at all. It said he had the flair of a grifter. And this is what a grifter has the flair to do. They have the style and the talent of someone who carries out a swindle, or they obtain something by swindling, by cheating, by deceiving, and by offending. That's what a grifter does. They don't do anything honestly. They're always being deceitful. They never stay in one place. They always go back and forth. And who did the Lord say goes to and fro in everything that he does? This is also another characteristic of Cain. He was a soiler, and that means he was someone who lacked moral standards, and he brings dishonor, and he is someone who causes a stain. And so, what did Jesus have to come and do when he died on the cross? And they said the blood that he sacrificed for, what did it do? It removed the stain. And from the time that Adam and Eve had been disobedient to God, they placed a stain upon man. And the thing is, Cain was the firstborn son. And even though he was born from Adam and Eve, that stain was upon him. Now think about this. The stain was upon him from birth. And that's why they say no man that's born of a woman and born from the womb can be sinless. And not only did he have that stain upon him from birth, God eventually put another blemish upon him for killing his brother. And so he had a double portion of being blemished and stained for being the person that he is and was. He was also a toiler, and that means he labored in, he worked in, and he slaved in the dirt, in the ground. Now this is very important. When God had to put Adam and Eve out of God's Eden, he didn't curse Adam, he didn't curse Eve, but he said, I'm cursing the ground on your behalf. So in that sense, the ground was cursed. Yet Cain decides he wants to give God an offering from that which is cursed. So how can you give a God who blesses curses and things that are cursed? And so God doesn't receive anything that's cursed. It has to be a blessing because he's a blessing and a blessed God. And so from that whole standpoint, Cain was already in trouble. He was wanting to give God what he wanted to give him, and not what God had demanded he be given. The other thing about it, being faithful irritated him. And anybody else that was faithful irritated him. And you have people say, them church folk just get on my nerves, all that God stuff and all that Jesus stuff. And you have atheists and all these people say, I don't believe in God, all that. You have to believe in yourself. The Scientologists, your science and your mind, you make yourself who you want to be. You become who you want to be. It's all based upon you. True to a point. But you can't do things without God. The other thing he says, he viewed the sacrificial offerings to God to be extra work. He was saying this, why do I have to do all this? I'm planting, I'm getting the crops. Why do I have to bring an offering to God? What good is that doing me? What is all this for? He didn't see a reason for it, and he looked at it as a thing that he was just doing extra work for nothing. The other thing he thought, and based upon that decision, his offering was rejected by God. And because he had that attitude, a grudgeful attitude, a drifter's attitude, I don't know why I need to be doing this attitude, a hurtful attitude, a killer attitude, God did not receive his offering. And so that's the thing, a lot of times we'll try to bring something to God or give something to God, and he'll say, will you give that to the governor? Will you give that to a person of renown? Will they accept it? And so, well, if they won't accept it, why do you think I should accept it? That's what God says in his word. And so then it says this. This is what God said about Cain. He designated him a fugitive, a vagabond, a roamer, and a transgressor. And so for the rest of Cain's life, Cain was always on the move. And when somebody's committed a criminal act, what do? They constantly move because they don't want to get caught. They don't stay in one place long. They move from this place to that place. And that's the first thing they always say, the criminal is on the run. Every time somebody were trying to catch him. And Cain was on the run for the rest of his life. But this is the thing. He wasn't ashamed of who he was. Now, strangely enough, when God said he was going to curse him, and he put the mark on him, he said, the punishment you've given me is too hard for me. Now, he's killed his brother. But yeah, he's going to say, what you saying you're going to do to me and what you're making me is too hard for me. If you don't do something, somebody's going to see me and kill me. Why was he worried about being killed? And I saw this on a Western, and I thought about this, Pastor. It was funny. One of the criminals was trying to sneak up on the other person, but he caught him in the midst of it. And when he turned around and saw him with the gun, he said, oh, please have mercy on me. And the man said, why is it that a person who doesn't want to give mercy always asks for mercy? And think about that. It's a strange thing. He's killed his brother, and now he's wanting God to have mercy on him. And even though God did have mercy on him, notice what he did. It said after he put the mark on him, he actually started this whole thing about more than one wife and all these different wives. Cain started that. God didn't do it. It came from Cain. And so God showed him mercy, and instead of him getting better, he got worse. And you have people in this life sometimes, you'll show them mercy, and instead of them getting better, they'll get worse because they have a Cain spirit. But notice Abel. Abel's name means breath. And what did God do when it said when he created man? The first thing he did. He breathed the breath of life into man. That's what his name meant, breath. He's the second son, which basically he's a witness of the goodness of God. Notice the difference. He was compassionate, he was helpful, he's kind, and he's loving. Who does that remind you of? Compassionate, helpful, kind, and loving. Sounds like Jesus does. Then it says this. He had the faith of a gifter. That means this. He had the commitment, he had the devotion to give somebody to somebody, to provide pleasure to somebody by gifting them something. He gave it to them out of show of respect, and he also did it for this reason. To give them pleasure and to show them gratitude. He also did it because he was a contributor, a donator, or a donor, and he was also an offerer. Which means he was a giving person. What do a lot of people talk about when they say a person is good and how they treat others and they show love to others? They always say this about them. They were a giving person. They were a compassionate person. And when you see Jesus, every time he would go and help somebody, before he would give somebody sight or he would heal somebody, he had always said he did this. He looked upon them with compassion. He looked upon them with love. He looked upon them with kindness. And so you see in all these things as far as who Jesus is going to be showing out and coming out in Abel. It also means showed us this. He was a shepherd. And notice this. One dealt with the ground that was cursed. The other one is a shepherd. And this is what it meant. He was responsible for caring for and for guiding his sheep. He was someone who looked after the well-being of his sheep. And what do they say the pastors and the shepherds of the flock are? They look after the sheep. They look after the well-being of the sheep. What was Jesus? A shepherd. Even though he's a carpenter, we call him our shepherd. The other thing you talk about with Abel, he was a tender. That means he watched over, he looked out for, he served, and he supervised. What does God do with us? He watches out for us, he looks out for us, he serves us, and he supervises us. When we're going in the wrong direction, that's why he had his rod and his staff. He taps us and gets us back in the right direction. He speaks to us and tries to get us back in the right direction. The first thing he did with Cain, when he knew what Cain was thinking about, was tell him sin is at the door. Don't let sin rule you. What you're thinking about, don't do it. But Cain let sin rule his life. He let sin become his God. And that's a lot of times what people do. They'll allow that sin or that flesh portion and that Satan is pushing to take over and rule their lives. But Abel didn't do that. Being faithful inspired Abel. And so when a person is true and strong in their faith, you always know they inspire others. They have the inspiration to tell other people about God. They tell their family about God. Anytime they get the opportunity that God gives them, they express God and they show their faith in God. And even without even saying anything, you can tell when they have faith in God just by the way they do things and how they live their life. It also said this: he viewed the sacrificial offerings to God to be excellent worship. He didn't look at it as work. He looked at it as if he was giving God praise and worship for what he had done. And so when you look at whatever you do for God, when we look at whatever we do for God as worship to God, it pleases us. And because God is pleased by that worship, that just continues to flow in us consistently. And that's why, as I grow older, I understand why our parents and grandparents were the way they were. And I don't hear it like I used to hear it, but they always had a song in their heart. And even in the midst of it, they weren't at church. But while they were at home, whether they were hanging up clothes, whether they were cooking, no matter what they were doing, they were worshiping God the whole time. But in order to worship God and be that way with God, you have to have Him in your heart. And when you're worshiping Him, He's going to continually give you that joy, and you're going to get more and more joy as you worship Him. The more you worship Him, the more joy you're going to get. The less you worship Him, the more suffering, the more frustrated you become. Because he valued God and he looked upon his worship as his offering as worship, his offering was received by God. So when Abel gave his offering, God received it. One way you could tell if God received an offering at that time, when the fire would go up and consume the flesh, the smoke would rise. That was a sign, so you knew it would be accepted. The smoke would rise. If he didn't accept it, and this is what happened to Cain, that smoke moved back in your face. And we've all had a situation, those who have barbecued and have cooked things. Whenever smoke comes into your face, what does it do? It makes you cough. It chokes you. You have to get away from it. But whenever, I think about this, whenever my mom and everybody else, anytime they're cooking something, and they cooking it, it's good, it's smelling good, you always notice that smoke rises from that pot. Yeah. When they barbecue and you smell it all, that smoke just rises. And it just goes all around the neighborhood. When they cook something, it just rises, you can smell it. And that's how it is with God. Whenever we give Him worship and He's pleased with it, He takes it in. When it doesn't please Him, He throws it away. He doesn't want it. This is what He said about Abel. He called him faithful. He called him virtuous. He called him righteous. And he said he had a testimony. Every child of God has a testimony. God's going to give you that testimony. And in the case of this, even though Abel didn't have to say anything with his lips, what did he say? His blood spoke for him. His voice still spoke for him. And so, in the sense where you notice this, the blood of Jesus is a testimony. When we accept and we are washed in the blood of the Lamb, that's a testimony that we received Jesus Christ. And that's a testimony to God that we are faithful, that we are righteous, and that we are virtuous. So notice, the blood that Jesus shed for us, we washed in that blood. That blood speaks on our behalf. And notice, that's what God said. He said, His blood is speaking and a testimony on His behalf of what you've done. Abel didn't say anything. And that's the wonderful thing about it. A lot of times that's why God say, just stand still. And old people say, hold your peace. God will do the talking for you. God will deal with it for you. And so, these are some gifters pearls that we want to share with you today. 3 things in particular. A gifter is a person of faith. That means they're a being, they're a creature, they're human, they're an individual. They have a soul of faith. Everything they do it in faith. What the old people say? You can't make me die because I know too much about it. They're faithful in everything that they do. That's the person. Then they have a personality of faith. Their behavior, their character, their disposition, their qualities, their makeup is faith. always smile. What are we going to do? Let Jesus fix it for you. They always had a response that was tied to faith. And it was just in their whole personality. Everything could be going wrong, but yet they always had a smile on their face regardless of what was going on in their lives. And then the other thing a gift does, they perform in faith. That means they act out in faith. They carry out everything in faith. They function in faith. They operate in faith. And they present everything in faith. If they have a situation or a problem, I'm going to give it to the Lord because I know He'll work it out. If He did it before, He'll do it again. If you're going to give Him the small things, give Him the big things. If you're going to give Him the big things, give Him everything. Let Him take care of it. That's why He said, cast all your burdens upon me. He says, pray but don't doubt. Have faith that what you ask for, you shall receive. Whenever we get up to go and we think about it, this is the one thing we don't think about it, but it's the faith that we have. We have faith that every day that we get up, and every time that we walk on this earth, God's going to give us a breath to breathe. It'd be very difficult to have to think about whether God will decide to give us breath at that moment. We don't have to worry about that. That's the faith of knowing that God's going to do that for us. It's not like having somebody deal with energy or something or utility where if you don't pay your bill, you get worried because they're going to cut my power off. You don't have to worry about God taking away your breath except for when you die and He takes His soul back and that time comes. But in the midst of everything, God gives us everything. And the thing is, we didn't have to pay for it. If man gets a hold of it, he's going to figure out a way to make money from it. The sunshine, we don't have to pay God for sunshine. God don't send us a bill when He makes it rain. He doesn't do that with us. He doesn't send us an air bill or a water bill or goodness or bad. He doesn't do that because He created everything and then He gave it all to us because He loved us so much. These are what we want to call the gift's faith features or facets or qualities that the faith attributes that a gifter has. Gifter has to be a person who receives God. In order to have faith in God, you've got to receive Him. You're receiving, that means you accept Him, you greet Him, you hear Him, you meet Him, and you welcome Him. What's the first thing we have to do? We have to come to Jesus. We have to confess and accept Him as our Lord and Savior. But to confess and accept Him as our Lord and Savior, we have to hear Him call. What do you say? Many are called, but few are chosen. There's a difference between somebody calling you, Rachel, come here, versus grabbing you and say, no, come on, Rachel, let's go. That's a different thing. You stand out a call and say, everybody, there's food in the street today. Everybody will hear that call. But if I say, come, Rachel, I got something at the house I want to get to. We got some mustard greens, cornbread that you don't have to cook today. All that's just set aside for you. And look, I chose you because it's your birthday month. Here you go. I'm giving this to you. This call didn't go out to everybody. This is specifically chosen. You've been chosen for this. For a particular reason. Same thing. Then, those who are faithful and a gift that they regard God. That means this. They deeply honor Him, they observe Him, and they respect Him. Abel respected God. Cain didn't. The very fact that you know he didn't respect God just by the fact of how he was talking to him. He said, where's your brother Abel? Am I my brother's keeper? Think, now he's talking to God like this. Like God is no one, nobody. Am I my brother's keeper? And God is coming down and asking you, where's your brother? The other thing, the gifter reflects God. That means they exhibit God. They mirror God. They think about and they think like God. What did Paul say? Let this mind be in us, the mind of Christ, let that mind also be in us. We think like Him. We act like Him. We walk like Him. That's what Jesus said. He said, everything I've seen my Father do, that's what I do. I and my Father are one. What did God say when He created us? He said, let us create create man in our image. When you look in the mirror, what are you looking at? You're looking at an image of yourself. Thank you, Holy Ghost. The thing you can do, we can look at every part of our body on the front. We can't see our back. In order to see an image of what we look like in the back, what we have to do, we need a mirror. We can see and we know we have a face, but we can't see our face unless we get in the mirror. And so the whole thing is, if we reflect God and we look at ourselves and say, when we see ourselves, we want to see God in us, see Jesus in us, then that means we're reflecting Him. Person of faith also reciprocates to God. That means they share mutually, they do things in return, and they respond to God. God loves me, I love God. God blessing me, I'm blessing God. God walks with me, I'm going to walk with God. Whatever He does, we do. We share everything we do with Him. I'm not going to walk without you. I'm not going to talk without you. I can't live without you. You gave me life, so I'm going to live for you. All of that is reciprocating and showing God you respect and you know what He's done for you. And so you basically in turn giving God back what God has given you. I told Sister Young, the Lord put this in my spirit. And I know a lot of times we see people, we'll say, well, have a blessed day. He put it in my spirit. When I see somebody, I'm not going to say have a blessed day. I'm going to say be a blessing today. Because when you're a blessing today, God is blessing you. In order for you to be a blessing, that means you've been blessed. You just say, well, have a blessing. Be a blessing today. That's what He wants us to be. Christ was a blessing every day He walked this earth. And He's still a blessing right now. God is a blessing to us every day. He wake up in the morning. He gives us strength. He gives us power. He gives us the. He's a blessing to us every day. And so a lot of times people say, well, I'm waiting on my blessing. The very fact that you said I'm waiting on my blessing means He must have blessed you because you're able to say that. If you have the strength to say it, you've gotten the blessing. If you're speaking, you got the blessing. If you woke up this morning, you got the blessing. You've been blessed already. So to say I'm waiting on my blessing, that's basically disrespecting God for getting you up in the morning, for putting food on your table and clothes on your back. You're doing an injustice to God by saying, I'm waiting for God to bless me. What if God said, when you going to bless me? I blessed you. How you going to bless me? When you going to bless me today? What you going to do to be a blessing to me today? I'll bless you all the time. When you going to bless me? It goes back to the funny thing when Janet Jackson had the song, what have you done for me lately? What if God said that to us? What have you done for me lately? You keep asking me to bless you. What have you done for me? The other thing it says this. The gifter is righteous in the sight of God. Not in his own eyes, but in God's eyes. And that's what the Bible said. That's what Genesis said. That's what the book said. God looked upon Abel and declared him righteous. He didn't say that Cain was righteous. He said you will be a roamer and a vagabond. You're a fugitive. You're a criminal. The only thing I want to do is put a mark on you so that nobody kills you. Because and even in that situation, because if somebody touches you, then they're going to suffer for touching you. It means you have to be decent and good and honorable and just. And this is the key thing. Consider to be correct and justifiable with God. Scripture says, those who He called, He also justified. He glorified. We can't do that to ourselves. So the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the priests and the scribes and Pilate and Herod and all the people, they were declaring themselves righteous. Based upon their positions, I must be right because look where I am. Had nothing to do with it. Had no honor, had no respect. They weren't just at all. But God declares us being justified in Him. And when He justifies us in all is well. When He says we're correct, in all is well. But when we get to the point, as the Bible said, when man started to do and think and understand he did whatever he thought was right in his own eyes. In every situation when that happened, God moved. With Noah, man started doing what he thought was right in his own eyes. What did God do? washed the earth. Tower of Babel, they got together. They figured they didn't need God. There's enough of us. We don't need to talk to God to get to heaven. We'll build our own tower and get to heaven. What happened? He come down and destroyed everything. Scattered them and gave them different languages. So that they can understand you cannot do anything in this life. You cannot bypass and supersede God. And so we're going to conclude. First thing, possess the gift of faith that we call the purpose. Be a person of faith, have a personality of faith, and perform in faith. That's what that means. Do those things, three things: person of faith, personality of faith, and perform everything in faith. You basically say, whatever you do, do it as if you're doing it for God. Doing it as if you're doing it to please God, not to please man. What the Bible says, don't be men pleasers. Be God pleasers. Have a gift of faith features. That's what that means. Got to do this. That's the only way you can do this. Receive God. What do we say? Accept Him. Greet Him. Hear Him. Meet Him. Welcome Him. That's what it said in Genesis. When they talked about with Adam and Eve before they disobeyed God. They would meet Him all the time. They had a meeting place where they would come and meet with God on a consistent basis. God didn't say, Adam, where are you? Because He didn't know where he was. He said, where are you? Because they didn't show up for the meeting. And so if somebody's supposed to be somewhere and they're late, what do you do when you call? Where are you? It's not that you don't, they're not lost. You just asking, why aren't you here? That's what it means. It also means this: regard God. Give God all the honor. Observe God. Be obedient to God. Obedience is better than sacrifice. Respect God. It also says this: reflect God. When people see us, they ought to see God in us. When you saying you're a Christian, that means you Christ-like. You ought to have the walk like Christ, the thoughts like Christ, the sight of Christ. Everything you do, when they see you, they ought to see you. And that's the thing. That's what God says. When we receive Christ, we've been washed in His blood. God doesn't see us anymore. God sees His Son. Because if He looked at us in our sinful ways, that meant you would have to turn away from Him. And how do we know that? Because when Jesus had all the sin upon Him on the cross, what did it say God did? He turned away because He couldn't stand to see the sin. Yeah. The other thing, reciprocate God. Share mutually in return and give God a response. Tell Him thank you. But whatever He gives to you, you give back to Him. The other thing, be righteous in the sight of God. Be good in His sight. Be honorable in His sight. Make sure He says, well done, my good and faithful servant. Because if you try to say it, He's going to say, what do you mean you're good? What did the rich young ruler try to say with Jesus? He called him good. And Jesus said there's only one that's good, and that's God. So we can't make ourselves good at all. God has to do that. Amen. And so these are the things we want to share with you today. The last thing we want to share. Be a gifter and have a gift of faith. That means this: breathe life into someone's life. And when He was giving me this, I'm just looking at this. We have life, and God has given us that life. Breathe that life into somebody else. And I think about that. That's the one thing our parents, our uncles, and I keep saying this. That was the thing they did. They would breathe that life of Christ into us. Because they said they wanted us to live and not die. And so when they see us and they see the life of Jesus Christ in us, give it to some, share it with somebody. Don't be keep it to yourself. Share it with someone. Be a contributor, a donator, an offerer who provides pleasure and shows gratitude unto God. Tell God things in the morning when He wake you up. Much obliged, as old people used to say. Much obliged. Thank Him for it. Have a commitment and devotion to give to somebody to provide pleasure and show gratitude. It's not about what we get from it, it's what we give to other folks and other people. When we give to them, notice God continues to give to us. Those who bless other people, you notice they continue to get blessings. And what does the scripture say? Unto whom much is given, much is required. And so you can't just sit on it like the man who built his barn and said he was going to sit back, relax, and be merry because he had put all of his growing, all of his produce in his barn. He was just going to sit back and relax. That night his life was quiet of him that night. He didn't get to share, he didn't get to experience it, he didn't get to enjoy any of it. Be a shepherd who cares for, who guides, and who looks after someone's well-being. You don't just have to be a pastor in that sense to be a shepherd. Shepherd is someone who watches over the sheep. Mothers who watch over their children are shepherds. Fathers who watch over their children are shepherds. That means they care for somebody else's well-being. That's what shepherd means. Be a tender. That means watch out for others. Look, and that's the one thing that we're missing now. When we were coming up, growing in the neighborhood, everybody watched out for everybody else. Everybody looked out for everybody else. If somebody else was in trouble, they helped them. If somebody was sick, they served. Let me take them. Look, we're going to sit down with your husband. We're going to sit down with you. You're going to get some sleep. But supervise. If you wasn't home, mom and dad wasn't home, do something wrong. You had all those eyes watching you. And when you got home, they knew about it. And so, but the thing is, nobody really wants to do that nowadays. But then when something goes wrong, why didn't you tell? Why didn't you say anything? Be attentive. Be inspired by your faith in God. Let that be your inspiration. That's why the older saints would always be lifted. That's why they always smiled and were joyous and happy. Because their faith inspired them. They knew who God was. Like this Lodian one would say this, I know the man for myself. He's a friend of mine. And they would always be lifted up when you have that faith in God. Through your sacrificial offerings to God to be excellent worship. Not just talking about the monetary things, talking about your time that you sacrifice to Him. Your talents and skills that you sacrifice to Him. It says, let yourself be a living sacrifice. Holy and acceptable unto God. We don't sacrifice. When we give ourselves to God, that's excellent worship to God. That's the most excellent worship you can give. When we say, Lord, use me. Let me be your sacrifice today. Let me be your blessing today to somebody else. That's what that means. Live so that your offering is received by God. As the old song said, I don't want my worship to be in vain. I don't want to run in vain. I don't want to do all this for nothing. I want to do it because I know that God's going to bless me for it and I'm going to be kept and rewarded for it. And this is the final thing. Make sure that God designates you as faithful, as virtuous, as righteous, and that He said that you are a testimony for Him. And what does I am a living testimony? Yeah. Your life is a testimony. And He said, a lot of times you may not have to say a word because people are looking at how you live. Yeah. If you say one thing and you live in something else, you know what they would say? Ain't nothing but talk. That's all they is. Just talk. And what the old few say, talk is cheap. Yeah. And so, this is the thing. Be a gifter. And when you're a gifter, that means you're doing everything that pleases God. Yeah. And whenever you please, and what does the Bible say? Without faith, it's impossible to please Him. If you're a gifter, that means you're walking in faith. Yeah. And what did God say about Abel? He said, Abel pleased God. Yeah. And because he pleased God, he submitted his offering. And his offering was pleasing to God. His worship was pleasing to God. His life was pleasing to God. And so that's the thing. Have a gift of faith. You have a gift of faith. Even when your enemy comes up against you, God won't speak for you. Because notice that what he said, you killed your brother. He said, but your brother's blood is speaking to me from the ground. He can't speak for himself. I'm going to speak for him. He can't say anything, but I can say something for him. And it all goes back to the part where he said, it'd be better that a millstone be placed around your neck than that you lay a hand or do anything to one of his little ones. So just because it seems like, and people think they're going to attack and do things to you, it seems like they're getting by, they're not getting by. Believe you me, God will let them know about it. He will respond. He will react. And that's what he does. And to think about this, with everything that Jesus did, because Jesus was a gift. How do you know he was a gift? And God is a gift. What the Bible said? God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. And what do we call his Son? His Son is a gift. So when we are gifted, that means we are reflecting God, because God is a gift. Jesus is a gift. Why do you say Jesus is a gift? Because he gave us redemption, he gave us deliverance, he gave us salvation, he gave us eternal life. And he did it through what? Through grace. And grace is a gift. So when we are gifted, that means we align with God. We're a reflection.